Believe it or not, I've been a professional photographer for 30 years. Here are 6 things that I wish I'd known before I started my career. So number 1 is that the business of professional photography is a complete roller coaster. It's not stable, it's not easy. There's lots of ups and downs along the way. Sometimes you're really busy and sometimes you're extraordinarily quiet. Sometimes you're making good money and other times you're not making any money at all. And that can be really hard to regulate over time. Now, I spent quite a long period of time at the beginning of my career trying to stabilize that, but it never really worked. And now I think I found a healthier way, which is to just accept the roller coaster and know that when I'm quiet, I can be back in my office, taking care of things back here, growing my own creativity and making personal work, and not worrying too much because I know that there will be a busy time on the horizon. And then during those busy times, I can just work all of the hours and know in my mind that quieter times will follow. So it's not going to carry on like that forever. And I think that that's one of the things that I wish I'd known back at the beginning, that not to push against the roller coaster, just to accept it for what it is. Number 2, do not skimp on gear. It took me a long time to learn. I made a few mistakes along the way with this, that you don't need to have everything. You don't need to have all of the latest technology. You need the right tools for the job, the best quality tools that you can get. Camera equipment that's reliable, always produces the best possible imagery. A classic example of this is lenses. You're much better off spending your money on just a couple of really good quality lenses that always produce sharp pictures, rather than filling your camera bag up with really cheap lenses that cover everything from ultra wide to super telephoto, but none of which are particularly sharp, because you'll just hate them all. Somewhere where I went wrong was that I bought a really cheap tripod when I started out, and I hated that tripod from the moment I bought it. I hated it every time I set it up. I hated it every time I used it. I hated it every time I took pictures with it, because I always knew that half of them were going to be a bit shaky because the tripod wasn't good enough. I couldn't rely on it. I hated it. I ended up giving it away and buying a much better quality tripod, which I loved from the moment I bought it, and I love it every single time I use it. I love it every single time I look at the pictures that I've taken on it, because they're nearly always sharp, and I will keep that tripod for a long time to come. So it's a really good investment. So always buy the best possible camera equipment that you can. Number 3, get some business skills. Lots of photographers are self-employed or run their own business. I've run my own business for 22 years. And I didn't know what I was doing in terms of the business side of things at the beginning. I thought that being a photographer was enough. There are lots of other elements that need to be considered, from accounts to invoicing to VAT to finance to marketing and advertising. I wish I'd focused on learning those skills early on in my career. Get some business skills. Okay, number 4, this is called 500th of a second or thereabouts. And I wish I'd known this strategy, because sometimes shoots go badly, and early on in my career I probably would have just rolled over and just written it off as a disaster. But even when shoots are going badly, you can turn them around. If you work hard and you pursue the pictures, in one frame, in 500th of a second or thereabouts, you can turn a disastrous shoot into a success. And I'll give you an example of this. That a few years ago I was shooting a sailing event for a corporate client for their in-house magazine, and I needed to get a couple of pictures for inside the magazine and a cover shot. But the shoot was disastrous. The day was grey, it was raining, it was windy, everyone was seasick, I was soaked, the cameras were soaked, there was just no pictures, nothing was working. It just felt like packing up and going home. But I just kept pursuing because I wanted that cover shot. And just before the end of the day, I saw this gap on the horizon, and I thought, if only the sun would come out just for a second, I would manage to get something that might work for a cover shot. And I had all of my cameras dry and ready, and I was still pushing because I'd prepared someone to wear a red jacket to come up onto the foredeck with me if the sun was going to come out, and it did. And I got this belting frame, and in that 500th of a second, I knew that I'd turned the shoot around and got my cover shot. and it was the guy wearing his red jacket looking up at the sails with the stormy sky behind, and it just worked out really well, but only had time to take literally one frame. You can turn a disastrous shoot around in 500th of a second or thereabouts with just one frame. So you have to keep pushing. Really important. Number 5, build a sensible and bulletproof file naming and archiving system to store all of your pictures so that you know where to find them. Early on in my career, I made the mistake of putting pictures into folders that had random names, into chaotic places, and very quickly that leads to a chaos, really. You can't find anything. So I instigated a system where I now, when I come back from a shoot, I save all of my pictures into a named and dated folder and onto a hard drive, and then copy that onto another hard drive so I've got multiple copies. I don't think it really matters what system you use, so long as you're systematic and that you carry on doing the same thing, so you build up an archive over time. I also don't think it matters whether you're professional or amateur. I think, or even if you take pictures on a smartphone, I think you need to get into a habit of making sensible places for you to put your pictures and then archiving them and backing them up, because hard drives will go wrong over time and your pictures are really important. So create a sensible and bulletproof archiving storage system for your pictures. Number 6 is be professional. Now, I've made some mistakes over the course of my career and I've learnt from them, hopefully. And I've developed almost a mantra that I use on shoots, and I'm going to share that with you now. And it's all about being professional. And it's gold dust, honestly. I wish I'd known a lot of this stuff back in the early days. It would have made life so much easier. So by being professional, I mean arrive early, or don't be late. Make life easy for yourself. Be early. Be prepared. Have all your gear ready to go, batteries charged up, everything ready to go. Read the brief twice so that you know exactly what it is that you're doing. Be polite to everybody and respectful to everybody. Make sure that you keep your ego under control. Now, sometimes you have to rein it in and let other people have a say in the shoot, but other times you need to be assertive and make sure you stamp your authority to keep the shoot moving along as you had planned. I think that it's really important to make sure that everybody that's there on the shoot day feels valued and involved and has a good time. And finally, if it gets to the end of the day and you're booked till 5 o'clock, but the light becomes nice, don't be in such a hurry to rush off. Stick around and make sure that you take the best possible pictures. That's ultimately what you're there for. Now, professional photography has been an incredible career for me. I hope that some of those tips might be of interest to you. If you want to hear any more or want me to go into any detail about any of the things that I've talked about, just drop me a comment. It'd be really lovely to hear from you. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.